Let's talk about some of the comments that we're getting on the channel. Somebody mentioned about the E5 shooting. Anything you can share about that?
Well, so like a lot of these incidents, right? They're 30 to 35 years ago. That particular incident is kind of sensitive, I think, still, because it was like a friendly fire shooting, and the guy that did that fired the gun and killed his own guy, he ended up committing suicide.
E5 is a beeper store located in Chinatown.
Yes.
There was a shooting that happened at the location,
right?
Because that place was being extorted from by the Flying Dragons. They were paying protection money to the Flying Dragons, right?
So I don't know if they were paying protection money, but they were somehow affiliated with Flying Dragons, because when the other crew went to that store to collect,
so the
Flying Dragons were already inside and they came out.
Okay.
They were hiding inside E5, which is similar to what we do as cops, where somebody's a victim of extortion and we wait until the guys come to collect the money, and then we come out and arrest them. But Flying Dragon gang members from Pell Street were actually inside the location. And when this other crew came, there was a confrontation, shots were fired, and one guy got hit by friendly fire.
And the other crew were the Grand Street Flying Dragons. Was it a different faction of the Flying Dragons, or was it?
I believe so, because the guy that I ended up picking up, and again, there was a videotape of the incident, and that's how we were able to piece together that was a friendly fire. It wasn't the other crew firing back. At that point, I believed that guy, that crew, to be members of the Grand Street. I may be wrong. It's 30 years ago, right? And if you have other facts, again, a lot of these incidents that happened so long ago, but you know, the people at E5 know, and you know, the guys that were in the back waiting for the other crew, they know. But the one guy that we picked up for the other crew, at that time, I believed he was a member of the Grand Street crew.
Guys, the information I got is BTK went over there to collect money,
Okay.
and the people who were there called the Flying Dragons because they were paying protection to the Flying Dragons, or maybe they were affiliated with the Flying Dragons. Maybe one of the owners were friends with the Flying Dragons. I don't know, but I thought it was a BTK shooting.
It's possible, and also you got to remember one thing. At one point,
But the friendly fire was between the
Pell Street on Pell Street.
Pell Street, yeah, Flying Dragons. So
Yeah.
and then after that, the person who shot the kid committed suicide.
Yes, but that was years later, and that was when he was in on the RICO case. It's still like kind of sensitive, so you know, anytime somebody dies, there may be other people that may be charged later on. So I just don't want to say too much in case something else develops later on, because as you know, homicides are never closed.
Yeah, so
you know, regular
that place is
cases,
still an open case.
Right.
It
It could stay open
involved.
because there's so many people involved in that particular incident that you don't know, because like you mentioned on unsolved case, sometimes 20, 30 years down the line, new information surfaces.
Exactly.
And then additional people.
Yeah, some of these cases, arrests were made like over 20 years later. Arrests were made.
Right.
On these cold cases.
So yeah, sometimes justice is elusive, but hopefully, and it's not always true, then in the end that there's some level of justice, because again, these guys, right, a lot of them are younger guys, but they still have parents, you know, and for a lot of Chinese at some point, if they, in fact, the gang members that came from China, you know, the parents came from China, they were only allowed one child. So when their child dies, it's like, that's it, you know?
Yeah, if anybody have any information, please share it in the comments section below about the E5 shooting.
One comment was like innuendo, like I was forced to retire. I was never forced to retire. In fact, I was actually offered a position that actually I would have liked, but unfortunately the guy that had it would mean that he would be moved somewhere else. And a kind of thing like Yihei, like if I didn't like the guy, I would have taken that position. But like I respected the guy, and so I didn't want to take somebody else's spot just because I was bored and I didn't think I could make a difference in that position I was at. So that's why I retired. Nobody forced me to retire. my ID card says July 4th, 2010, and nobody says, oh, we're going to force you to retire, and it's going to be Independence Day. No, I chose that date because it was symbolic for me. Independence Day, I'm done with the police department. Let's move on to something else. Comment what you do after that. For 10 years, I worked in a family business, and it was recently sold to a big chain. What else? What other comments? Planting a gun, like I mentioned, there was no need. Never would. And again, these guys, same thing. You're doing something every single day. I don't get you today, I get you tomorrow. Somebody mentioned I'm picking on the association, the older people. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Because I actually felt sorry for some of the younger kids because they didn't know what they were doing. But the older people, the people that were in the unlearn, the hip sing, and there was a certain element that were using these kids, to do their dirty work. So if I hit an association or whatever, it wasn't because I'm bothering old men. If you look at any of these racketeering cases, the masterminds of these gangs were actually older people that used them to do their dirty work, whatever it was. Hey, we can't show our weakness, we're gonna go shoot up that other crew. It wasn't a 16-year-old kid deciding. There are some incidents, right, where it was kid on kid where they don't know any better, but a lot of these major things, it was an older guy telling them what to do, And I gotta mention one of the reasons that I wanted to come originally was I have to be truthful. I didn't see all the episodes, but there was one particular episode that bothered me, and it was a gang member, Big Head, that you asked me about, and he talks about how I've seen this, I've seen that, and he mentions particularly a guy that lost 5 factories, right? And like for them, I could see the mentality thinking, oh yeah, this guy, he's to blame. There's no one to blame but himself. But this guy that lost 5 factories, he probably worked his whole life to get those factories. Like nobody said, I'm going to give you 5 factories. And behind that guy is his family and his kids that, because this freaking guy lost 5 factories in one night, lost everything they had, right? And then the other story was, how the other guy, he lost a lot of money, he went downstairs and hung himself over the pool table. Mm-hmm. And, like I could see, again, they're saying, oh, yeah, we didn't force a guy to gamble. But again, right, when that guy's family sees that video, hey, that's my dad, you're talking about, mm-hmm. right? So I see it in that light that, yeah, it wasn't directly your fault. You weren't running the gambling. You were maybe doing some gambler didn't pay, like that guy that lost the 5 factories, if he didn't pay up they would have had you go after him, right? The gang members, the gang, and mm-hmm. You get a contract out and you do the job. So it was that thing. And that guy that lost and killed himself, in his mind, how is he going to pay back? I don't know if he owed money, whatever. And those are the reasons. Like people, I lost $20 on the Jets. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to kill myself. But that guy, maybe he borrowed money, maybe he did whatever. He was so full of despair that he killed himself. And I think sometimes, like when guys talk about those incidents and they're nonchalant, it just like makes me feel like a little more. I think part of it is like the bravado, the people talking like they want to be braver or whatever. So I think some of it is that. But again, right, we worked a long time. We saw some gang members that were like, they could have been something else because there was a certain line they wouldn't cross, and there are other guys, didn't matter. They kill you, they kill your people. Like there was an incident in Teaneck, New Jersey, right? It was retaliation for some Fuk Ching guys that got killed mm-hmm. in Manhattan. They went to Jersey, they killed 2 people in the basement, tied them up, and looked like tortured, and freaking killed them. Killed and 2 people in the basement, 2 other people shot and stabbed, and those are a different breed of guys. I have pictures of the guys that were originally killed on Allen Street, which led to that second homicide. But it takes a certain level of people. It's one thing when you're firing, but to tie somebody up, torture them, and then execute them is a different breed. And those are the guys that that you really want to get, and you know, and in the end, we got a lot of those guys.
Yeah, those guys who gamble like that, you know, they're probably new to gambling. I mean, these guys didn't gamble all their life, because if they were gambling all their life, they probably don't have the experience in gambling. And for someone to lose that kind of amount of money in such a short time, they probably just got exposed to it.
Well, gambling, I think, is like a disease too. Like for some people, they can control it. Like, you know,
there's all different types of
all different
gamblers.
types.
You have the casual gambler, the compulsive gambler, and you know, the social gambler. You know, and it progresses. It's a disease that progresses.
I always thought, and I don't know the story, but I know a lot of those gamblers that frequent these locations, right? They're people that don't have a lot of money, but they're working those 16-hour days, and the last day, like, what are you going to do, you know? Your family's back in China, you're here, and not so much about the guy that owned the factories, you know, his family's probably here. But those guys that work in the restaurant and they're trying to pay off the loan they took, or the family took, or the whole village took to get them here, and they see that, hey, maybe I don't have to pay it off in 10 years. Maybe I can win it. And I think there's a lot of guys like that. They get caught up.
That. And you know, that's the reason why Big Head is talking so nonchalantly about it, is because, you know, guys like us, we've been exposed to all these stories. We hear it all the time, especially hanging out in these gambling houses, you know, day and night. And
I guess, you know, you get heartened, right?
It's just like being a cop or a detective. You see a dead body. Like, you know, I work in a squad. I see dead bodies all the time. Like, even whether it's natural causes or not. Like, almost every week or every other week we have to respond to a DOA. So you get desensitized, and then, you know, maybe that's why, you know, you're just coming across as like insensitive or, you know, nonchalant when he's talking about these stories. But
it's possible. I know some of the stories he's talking about. When people call him into the precinct, and he gives his big head. You know, I don't know this, I don't know that, I don't know this. You know, that's Big Head. And I know, right? It's a small world.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story about Lang City Big Head. Can I share that?
Share some Big Head stories.
All right. No, this is the recent one. I told you about it.
One,
yeah.
Okay.
So my dog died in a couple months ago, and I had that dog for a long time. And for anybody that has a dog, you know, they become part of your family. You know, most people, I think. And people that have cats, they don't know what I'm talking about. But this dog
You're going to get a lot of comments on that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You know what? I don't know what I'm talking about, because I only had one cat when I was a kid. Her name was Milky, and one day I came home and Mom had given away that cat. So I cried for that cat too. But this dog, right? Originally, this dog slept with my son every day, and loved my son the most, because as a puppy, they formed that bond, you know. And my son every day would sleep with that dog, until he became a teenager. He started dating, and then he started bringing girls to the house. And all of a sudden, that dog couldn't sleep in his bed anymore. So that dog, for the last 10 years, became my dog again, you know. So every morning, 7 o'clock, rain or shine, that dog would go, and I would have to walk her, you know, even to this day, right? My dog's been gone a couple months. I wake up at 7. So when this dog finally passed away, it was like everything in my house reminded me. So I tell the wife, I got to get away. Let's go to Lang City. I haven't gotten there in years. And I call my sister-in-law and I say, go to Lang City. I haven't gotten there in years. I'm not getting comp for anything. You know, maybe something off the strip, a decent restaurant I can go to. So she tells me this Vietnamese restaurant. I go to the Vietnamese restaurant. It's like a hole in the wall. We sit down and I look, around. The food was actually very good.
Yeah, that's one of the best restaurants out there. Yeah.
But it reminds me of Fogey on Allen Street. It was like one of the dirtiest places I've ever been to. But the food was excellent. You know, the soup was the best. So we sit down, we order our food, and 2 guys come in with 2 big dogs. I don't know what breed they are. I thought it was like a German Shepherd or
German Shepherd.
And the other dog is like a mixed type. But they were big dogs, and Big Head's a big guy, and he had the big dogs. Usually I see big guys that have little dogs, But Big Head comes in with his friend and 2 big dogs. And the restaurant, the Vietnamese guys, the real Vietnamese, because when I talk Chinese to them, they didn't understand. They go, "You can't come in with those dogs," right? To Big Head. I don't know if Big Head told you the story.
No,
but
no, he didn't.
They tell me he can't come in, and Big Head still looks like a gangster. Was he wearing a tank top and all his gold chains? In your video, the way he's dressed.
Yeah.
But I think he was wearing a tank top, and he still talks whether he means it or not. He still come across like, if you were making a movie about a gangster, cast Big Head because he's a gangster. Even though he might be reformed, I don't know, but he talked like a gangster. And Big Head goes like, "These are my service dogs." And again, people say I'm fucking full of shit, I'm lying. Put Big Head on and ask him the story. I might not recall word for word what he said, but it's basically to that effect. You want to see the papers? I got papers for the service dog. These dogs are not leaving. So these owners originally, they're saying, "No, you gotta leave. You're scaring the other customers." And these are big freaking dogs too, right? But Big Head insists. And, so now I look up and I see it's freaking Big Head. Right? I don't know if he sees me originally, but the restaurant then says, okay, you sit right here. And Big Head sits down at the table, is closest to the door. I guess it's a table where when people come in, they won't walk past these big dogs. And for the record, these dogs are well behaved because they just like sat down,
Yeah.
They were like his lang jai, they just sit down and waited for Big Head like this. I can imagine those days. But, and then I hear Big Head saying, "Yeah, and bring me 2 plates of raw beef for my dogs." And the guy's going, "Raw beef for your dog? Okay." So in the end, Big Head sees me and they say, "Hey, Big Head, you're famous now." Something to that effect. I said, "You got like 1 million views. I saw that video." He goes, "No, man, I got 2 million." Yeah. So in the end, we finished it. When I leave, I shake his hand, and he goes, "Yeah, I haven't seen you for a long time." Yeah, and I said, truthfully, "Yeah, I saw you a couple times. I just didn't let you know." And I'll tell you off camera the times I've seen him. I'll tell you off camera though. But it's just funny, how would you think that you go to Atlantic City, you haven't been there for years, and your dog passed away, and you see Big Head and he's got 2 big dogs?
Yeah.
I almost wanted to ask, "Hey, can you give me one of those service dogs? I miss my dog." Because when your dog passes away, you go to every day I think different. Like, I'll never get another dog, because it hurts so much.
Yeah.
They don't live long enough, and then it's like I need another dog because I keep waking up at 7. I need to do something at 7 in the morning. Like, nobody else is up that early. I don't have to work. So that's my Big Head story. Sorry.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
I guess all those years being in the streets, how he carried himself, it just sticks with you.
Yeah.
Even though deep inside you change, but your appearance and maybe the way you talk and how you handle yourself.
But Big Head just made one mistake, right? The way he sat, his back was toward the door. So if there's still other people,
he has speed with him. He has speed with him. So,
oh, okay.
Right.
So but for me, I always want to sit facing the door.
You can't have 2 people
side
by side facing the door.
It's funny you mentioned that because sometimes I go with another guy and we sit next to each other and people think like we're gay or something because we're both facing the door. We're sitting at that table for 4 and both of us are on the same side because neither of us want to sit with our back. So.
Even as cops, we as long as one of them is facing the door.
Right. You gotta make sure it's the right one though.
Make sure exactly. That's why he got speed, so he ain't worried.
Right, I guess so. All right, I forgive you, Big Head. Some guy made a comment. He talks with somebody that used to work with me. Listen, the guys that I really work with, no one would say something like that. I don't badmouth anybody, and for them, they didn't really work with me. I work with some great freaking guys. I learned from guys that were ahead of me. I learned from guys that were above me. There was one guy we called the Tai Lo, and Big Head would know. He's a cop, but everybody called him the Tai Lo because he's like the senior guy. you know, and we respected them. We learned a lot. They were guys, the two Mikes. They were the original guys, not the original guys in the gang unit. There were guys that came on early, but there were two guys when I came on the force. I learned a lot from both these guys, both Mikes. One passed away, unfortunately, and then later on, the new crew of guys that I work with, outstanding. I would maybe sit with my back against the front door with any of these guys. So if anybody they badmouth me, then you're not one of the guys. You're somebody else. And as you know, I can interview 100 of your friends, colleagues, schoolmates, whatever. There's going to be some people that badmouth you for whatever reason. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. So, like I said, this is one time I addressed the commenters, and I don't care about the rest. There's that interesting commenter though, Batman versus Superman woman. Actually, I don't even know this woman, man. I don't know who it is, but she puts a lot of stuff in her comments. And for people that not familiar, I kind of know what she's talking about. Like, I don't know all the characters she's talking about, but when she talks about the deeper ties, like, there's a lot of things that, like, it's hard to explain in Chinatown. You know, you have to either grow up there or be part of it. You know, how the tongs work, the gangs work, and the associate. And again, the majority of the people in these associations and stuff like that, they're legit. Like, one guy told me, you know, he opened a restaurant. It was in between like the Flying Dragons and Ghost Shadow territory. So one guy had to join the Honor, one guy had to join the Hip Sing, so that he felt that he wouldn't get trouble from the gangs. And that's how people survived in Chinatown. Didn't mean that all these people that were in the Honor and Hip Sing were bad. It's just something they had to do to survive.
They were just members. There's only just a handful of the
again,
members.
Tiny element in each of these organizations, but they're the guys that directed the kids to do things that, you know, that were pretty bad. Because he commented on I had to guard the body of a homicide victim, but I think the times are off. I mean, a lot of people were getting killed. So, but that particular time, so I didn't get to the 87, 88, because you go through the academy.
Do you remember the victim's name?
I don't remember the guy's name. I remember the location. It was a Chinese gift shop, Chinese furniture, right on Division Street.
Would it be Peter?
I don't think it was Peter, because the times are off. What year was Peter killed?
I don't know the exact year. I gotta look back.
Yeah, so, yeah, but it wasn't one incident. There was a whole bunch of them. You know.
Yeah, a lot of cold cases.
Yeah, remember there was one in Brooklyn where it kind of bothered me too. It was a business owner and they killed like him and his wife. It was a fact. It was in Brooklyn. Again, if you ask me things in 15 years ago, I had a chart, but it's hard to remember because anything that was NYPD, you know, I don't take out. I just leave there, hoping somebody will work on it later on.
Tell us about that shooting where 3 people got killed. Remember that story that you started? You said that one of the guys ordered.
Right. So that's shot. Public information too. In fact, I brought out the papers that talk about that case. It's over there. So, as part of the Fuk Ching crew, you know, there was some division because they felt that some gang members felt that they weren't getting paid enough. So, and it's all public record. The head of the Fuk Ching ordered that those guys get killed, and it was a beeper store on Pike Street and on to Allen Street. Pike went into Allen, and so these guys went in, and some guy just followed and killed all of them, you know. And following that, that crew that was killed, his people retaliated and went to Teaneck and then committed the double homicide and shot the other 2 that didn't die. So there was a lot of ongoing stuff, and for people to say, oh, it's just kid shit, it wasn't, because people were getting killed, people were getting buried. And for the people that actually want like more information, like a lot of this is public information, they just have to Google, you know, the indictments, the racketeering, the U.S. Attorney's Office, either Eastern District or Southern District, and you can see the open indictments, and it talks briefly about why this gang was taken down. And if they want, I brought some of the articles, and then you can I guess, posted or whatever for people that want to just Google and make it simpler for them, and they can look at these instances.